solving quadratic equations by graphing. We just took a quiz where we solved for x by factoring. Remember doing that? All right. So I'm going to show you how to solve for x by graphing. Our quiz just reminded us of two things that will help us on this. It reminded us how to graph a parabola. So let's graph this one together. You guys are good at it. Let's find our axis of symmetry. Let's see. Negative b over, how rude. They gave me a fraction on this one. That's negative 2.5, right? So my axis of symmetry sits right here. Okay. And the next thing we do is use a table to plot some points. If my axis of symmetry is at negative 2.5, what numbers would you guys like to plug in? Positive 2?
Negative 2.
I think negative 2 would probably be a good one. As I say, positive 2 might end up all the way off our graph, right?
Yeah.
So let's plug in negative 2 and see how close we are. All right, so I've got negative 2 squared plus 5 times negative 2 plus 4. 4 minus 10 plus 4, I get negative 2. So negative 2.
Always plug in negative 1. Negative 1 and 0?
Negative 2, I got negative 2. Negative 1 and 0?
Yeah. That's
All right, let's plug in negative 1. Negative 1. There's 1 minus 5 plus 4. 1 minus 5 plus 4, I get 0. So at negative 1, we got 0. And at 0, that one's easy. I get 4. Now, the one thing I didn't make you do on this was graph the vertex because I didn't want to plug the fraction in. So it's kind of being nice. But if there is a point this far away from my axis on that side, that means there's one balanced on the, reflected on the other side, right? Reflect all of your points. That's 1.5 away. So there we go. 1, 2, 1, 2. I'm going to be guesstimating where my vertex is, and I'm all right with that right now for the sake of we are solving by graphing. This has two solutions. Anybody want to venture what they are by looking at the graph? Yes, ma'am.
negative 1 and negative 4.
What do we have in common with negative 1 and negative 4?
They're both in the x-axis.
They're both negative, but they're both crossing the x, they're x-intercepts, right? So she's exactly right. Our solutions are negative 4 and negative 1. It's where it crossed the x-axis. So these are our solutions. The next thing you need to know that is if your parabola sits on the axis, it's going to cause you to only have one answer. If it crosses the axis, you're going to have two answers. And if it never crosses the x-axis, it's no real solution. And we'll learn more about that later. Now, what if when I had graphed a parabola, But maybe it went through here and here. Do those go through pretty spots?
They told us through 3.5 to 6.
Totally guessing though, aren't you?
Definitely.
What if it was 3.4 instead of 3.5? So it actually matters. Whoa. So it's not always pretty. And so I want to show you how to use your Alex tool. So if you guys will open your homework with me real quick. Go to the latest assignment. It's 2-2 solving quadratics by graphing. And we're going to do this together. You'll do your problem while I do my problem. Man, it's taking me forever to get there. Sorry. If it crosses in a pretty spot, life is good. You can just look and you pick that number. But a lot of times it doesn't. So let's see here. The first couple, it's going to make you graph, and they'll go through in pretty locations. But here, and I think you guys are going to like this. Let me get that out of the way. It says use the Alex graphing calculator. We've never really had to use the calculator before, so I want to make sure that you understand how it works. So grab the calculator. Are you guys on number 3 with me, by the way? It will have different numbers, but get on number 3 or even number 4. And instead of graphing by hand, plotting points, we're going to have the calculator do it for us. So you've got a different, does anybody have the same equation as me? Did anybody luck out? Darn it. Okay, you're going to type in your own equation because you want to solve your problem, right? And this is how you do it. You see this y equals right here? Click y equals. All right. And in that y equals spot right there, let me grab my keyboard. You're going to type in your equation. You don't need to type the f of x in. That's a good question because our y equals stands for the f of x. I'll give you a second to get yours typed in. Anybody need help? Just still waking up? We're typed in? How do I do the what? The caret key that's above. I have to look and see what it's above.
6.
Thank you. Above 6. I was going to guess 7. Make sure you arrow over so you're not still in the exponent after you do that.
Who do we push out there?
Almost there. Want to keep us all together. I'm sorry. All right. Graph. Right there. We hit graph. Isn't that fabulous? So much easier than what we've been doing by hand. Now, here's the problem though. I'm solving by graphing. I would have to guess. Would you have to guess? Does yours go through a pretty point or is it in between? And we'd have to guesstimate, right? We'd have to guesstimate. So there's a way to make our calculator do that. And it's called 0. All right? So another name for the solutions to a quadratic equation are the zeros of the equation. Yes,
It
sir?
only tells you how to put in. Mine doesn't show the full problem.
Okay, we'll look at it in just a second. I think it'll be okay. As long as you can see the intersections, Tyler, I think it's going to be fine. Okay, as long as we can see the x-intercepts. Let me erase that. Okay, so hit 0. How many zeros do I have, by the way? I've got 1 here and 1 here. I've got 2, right? So I'm going to have to do this twice. If I hit 0, this is where you need to drag and drop using your mouse. We've got to look at 1 0 at a time. I'm going to put that line on the left-hand side of it. What you're telling the calculator by dragging those lines is, look in between these 2 blue lines for the x-intercept. Okay? Once you do that, once you say look in between right here, you hit find 0. And look at that. It tells me the answer right there. And I'm supposed to round to the nearest hundredth. So I would come over here and I would type negative 1.72. Okay, and then I've got to do it again. I'm going to drag over to this 0 and drag, whoop, come on. There it goes. Now I'm telling it to look in between here and here. Find the 0. My other answer is 0.39.
Mine doesn't all work.
Let me hit pause for a second so I can come and help you guys, and then we'll do another problem together. Okay, so I'm going to do one more problem. Move to 4. And it's going to be the exact same thing, you guys. You're finding that moving that arrow with the hand is probably the most frustrating thing of the process, right? Y equals 2x squared. Whoops. Goodness gracious. All right, I've got it in there. I'm going to hit graph. I want to find the zeros. And it is frustrating, I'll give you that. I'm going to have to use my mouse.
How much
it
does he
looks like. You know you've got it, I think, when it turns yellow. That's when you know you can move it. I've got a 0 in between the blue lines, and that's when I can hit find 0. Once I have it, you guys will get it wrong if you don't pay attention to your rounding. So be careful there. Mine to the nearest hundredth is negative 2.64. Okay, I found if you hit clear all right here before you go to that second 0, that it resets your blue lines. Goodness, gotta use my mouse. And then you need to drag them so they are on either side. All right, I've got an x-intercept in between 2 blue lines. I can hit find 0. This is another one I'm going to have to round. 1.14. What's the most frustrating part? Moving the blue line? How nice is it to be able to just graph your parabola, though? That's kind of super awesome. All right, finish off that homework.